Hello and welcome to Gender Nebulous episode 27. I am Victoria Hodges and my co-host is...
Miss Freda Wallace. As you should know by now, Victoria.
As you should know by now,
Victoria. We've done 27 of these damn things now.
Quite a lot. Yeah, we should know each other's names by now. So how was your weekend so far?
Yeah, nice, relaxed, didn't do much, went out. Well, I did do a lot actually, but I went to a fetish club, my usual place, and had a bit of fun. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. In case,
that's all you're allowed to say on the matter, to be honest.
I don't want you to do any editing you don't want to do. So
thank you.
I'll say I had a bit of fun with a few people. Let's say that.
Okay. Well, yesterday I was in Blackpool, at Blackpool Winter Pride.
Wow.
And it was really good actually. I've never been into the Winter Gardens thing before.
It's a beautiful place.
It's a beautiful building, especially the old, like the big room, the big dance hall room, where we call it. The floor in there is amazing.
Well, that's where they do Strictly.
No, Strictly's done in Blackpool Tower ballroom.
Is it? I thought
not the Winter Gardens ballroom.
All right.
But it's very similar kind of style. It's huge. You wouldn't expect it to be so big. Anyway, that was where the stage was, and they had a couple of areas where they were doing a youth pride and then like the normal pride. And they had a load of stalls and things. So I spent most of the day giving out non-binary gingerbread people.
Non-binary gingerbread people.
My company, who was there, had purchased 1,000 non-binary gingerbread people. I'm not sure why they thought 1,000 was a good number. You know those massive big plastic trays they have for bread the bread delivery. Right? Yeah. We had 6 of those full of gingerbread people. 6 pallets.
Right. 6 pallets of gingerbread.
6 pallets of gingerbread.
So did you? Was it very busy? Was it?
There was a lot of people coming through.
Yeah.
And I kind of took it on as a mission to get rid of all the gingerbreads. So anybody who's coming past was, I thrusted a pile of gingerbread at them, and we seemed to get through the pile. By the end of the day, all the pallets are empty.
I've always had a weird relationship with Blackpool because, like Blackpool, like it's like seen as they call it the pleasure centre of the North and all this. It's like the Las Vegas of the North, but it is. Oh gosh,
it's not the Las Vegas of the North.
I call it.
I don't know if you've ever been to Las Vegas, but it's nothing like Blackpool.
If I was to describe Blackpool to somebody who'd never been to Blackpool, I'd say it's like, imagine Lost Boys, but on benefits.
Actually, I was quite surprised because I've never been into Blackpool on the train before, from where I live.
Yeah.
So
there used to be a show called Life on Benefits, with this kind of like poverty porn, and this kind of thing that.
What you're talking about, Benefit Street?
Yeah, something like that, and one of them was Blackpool, and I was like, oh my, because there's so much, the back.
I tell you, I've not been there recently, but there's a lot of investment going on in Blackpool. So you get into the train station. As soon as you come out of the train station, there's a brand new Holiday Inn being built, which I guess those hotels are not cheap to build, are they? So it looks like a really nice one. It's right opposite a massive Sainsbury's, which looks quite modern. And then as you're walking down towards the sea, you can see there's a lot of investment going on. And in the Winter Gardens, there's a big new conference centre there as well. So
that's good. Yeah, well,
they are investing money there.
Did you ever see a show called Bargain Loving Brits by the Sea?
Bargain.
It's a sort of like a reality TV show on Channel 5. And my friend has a shop in Blackpool called the Horror Crypt. Oh, right. And they said like all sort of serve, movie memorabilia and horror themed toys and things like that. And they have a little cafe. And that's what Blackpool is, isn't it? I think Blackpool is the only town in the UK where you can buy toffee, a dildo, and a gun in the same shop.
Why would you want that combination? I don't know.
But that's what it's like. Yeah.
Have you ever been to Funny Girls?
Yeah, I got a friend who worked there for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, that is very close to where the event was yesterday.
Yeah, did you go?
I have been to Funny Girls once. It was a really good show, and they have a really good restaurant in there too. I was a bit wary of going to that originally because I'm not really sure about those kind of shows.
The drag shows?
Well, I mean, it's a drag show, but I wasn't sure if I'd like it or not, but it was great. It was I think,
good. Well, I can understand, you see, because they're playing to a very straight, cis, heteronormative audience, aren't they, in Blackpool? So they see drag queens, it's kind of removed from its political and
there's that thing where some people confuse drag with trans, and I try and avoid that.
I don't mind that. I just don't care about that. What bothers me is when straight people just only see us as drag, because if they only ever see drag queens,
they don't see the difference, do they?
You'll see TERFs weaponising that, and they'll show pictures of drag queens and say, look at these trans activists. It's like, well, no, they're creative people, whatever they are, they're not.
I mean, it's an act, isn't it? It's a form of art. And it's great. There were some.
But speaking of trans activists, I've got to say, as we speak, there's quite a large protest going on in Glasgow at the moment.
Yeah.
With there's a fairy convention, and then
you mean a furry convention?
Fairy convention, not fairies, as in like
furries.
Like fairy godmother, furries. Am I saying it right? And they do like a cabaret for trans rights, and at the same time, one of our quite well-known little turfy people, Kelly J. Keane, is up there with a little gaggle of reprobates, and it's. I mean, I had a look at the Twitter feeds earlier. It seems pretty, unless something's happened while we're talking. It seems quite calm, and the police are managing it. But everything that you hear from the way I see it is, those people that support trans rights understand that they don't opt in to being trans, where people who support Kelly Keane very much opt in to being
to opt in to be anti-trans.
And they might dress it up as standing for women and feminism and women's spaces and all that, but really, when you strip a layer of that away, a very thin veneer of that away, the core of it is an authoritarian stance on the idea of gender non-conformity, and that's what it comes down to. It's not just about trans. They don't like non-binary. They want to associate us with groomers, and that is their whole rhetoric.
I would have liked to have gone up to Glasgow.
I would add it's partly due to the good work of people like Paul Bloomer, who will be on. We're gonna upload that podcast soon. But Paul Bloomer, he's putting things together for the police so they understand when these anti-trans people complain that where it's coming from. It's not coming from a good place. They don't have any genuine concerns. They just don't like trans, non-binary, and people that don't fit into gender stereotypes.
So I mean, we'll see what happens with the protest. But I mean, there's the anti-trans thing that's being organised by Posey Parker, and then I think there's a couple of trans protests going on. Or I mean, there's the furries who are supporting the cabaret against cabaret against hate speech, something like that.
Yeah. Well, the way I see it, it's not even a protest. It's just a celebration of trans and non-binary and gender non-conforming people that don't agree with the Westminster decision to try and block the GRA. That to me, it doesn't have to be a protest.
No, but I think the furries were there for a convention of some sort, and they've agreed to join in with the cabaret people as an anti-protest against the Posey Park stuff.
Yeah, but the main thing for me is it's a celebration and it's a joyous occasion, and I think that's what's coming off. And I think the people of Glasgow, as a whole, when they look at that, they'll see that the trans people, the people campaigning for our rights, are the good people. They're not trying to hurt anyone. They're not rebels. They're not anarchists. They're not they're not some kind of rebel alliance. they're just genuine people that understand that people need freedom of expression and they should be supported in that. And the hate crimes should be listened to and reported. Now, when somebody like Kelly J. Keane rolls into town with a little circus, she's not from Scotland. She doesn't know anything about those people. She doesn't understand those marginalised communities and the disenfranchised, the lack of funding into mental health, the lack of funding into women's services. She doesn't give a toss about that. She gives a toss about selling T-shirts. She gives a toss about getting people to subscribe to her website. And to me, Kelly J. Keane is nothing but a businesswoman that's figured out a way to I mean, she's also ego driven. You can tell she's always talking about winning, but she will run out of energy before the world runs out of trans people.
Let's hope so.
And that's just the fact of it. When she's 70 years old and if she's still rolling around going, men can't have penises, then well there's no value to that because it doesn't mean anything.
I'm sure your friends Susan Smith's going to be there too.
Oh yeah, well they help fund her. Obviously they totally back Kelly Keane because the For Women Scotland group was one of the founding members was Magdalene Burns, who they see as a bit of a martyr.
When I say your friend, I'm being sarcastic, obviously. Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. I know you mean because
somebody who actually might not realise.
I've had a few spats with her on let's say the entertainment wing of News TV.
Yeah, if there is such a thing. So are you ready to get into this week's topics? There's quite a few, actually.
I am. Come on, let's roll. So, let's get into the meat and potatoes.
OBS, I will shrink us down to our smaller selves.
Ooh.
There we go. And I will bring in our first topic, which is it's a good news story, but there's a bit of a weird thing about this one, so I'll just bring it up. So there it is. This was it's Finland's parliament have passed a long-awaited amendment to Finland's transgender law. So they've had a vote in parliament over there, and they've voted 113 to 69 in favour of making changes to the nation's transgender laws. 17 MPs were absent from the vote, no abstentions. The result means that transgender individuals can legally change their gender by self-declaration note, without having to undergo a lengthy medical process, including a psychiatric assessment, as under the previous law. The changes will also see the abolition of a requirement that transgender people must be unable to reproduce. Now that is the bit that kind of got my attention. Previously, they had a law which, there was a requirement for transgender people to be unable to reproduce. Now, why on earth would any country have a law that says transgender people have to be sterile?
That's very
transition. That's trying to eliminate trans people, isn't it?
Well, it's trying to say that you're less of a...
Or is it saying that if trans people produce children, there'll be something wrong with those children? What are they saying with that? I mean, it's demonization and it's dehumanizing. It's like they used to say this about, we need to stop the prevalence of any kind of minority based on the fact that it's a threat. That's what it comes down to. They think if you stand by laws like that, then you're actually agreeing to say that being trans could destroy society, and it's like bizarre. So under Finland's previous laws, transgender people were required to provide a medical certificate proving they are sterile in order to legally confirm their true gender.
Unless it's to do with
that is horrendous.
There are people in this country, well, we know there are, who say that the only the reason they don't like the self-ID thing is because they want to control the autonomy, like the perception of someone's self in the social world. So they'll put because we know, even though we go along with the gender clinic, but when they say things like to us, like, oh, you've got to live in role for 2 years, you've got to, it's like, says who? What is the barometer for that? There isn't one. I don't know how to be a woman, no more than I know how to be a man. Those things are not decided by me. These are social, economic,
Can you imagine if you had a rule like that for any other group of people?
Well, they did.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about nowadays, not in the past. I mean, this law's only just been changed now.
In some country, but this is the thing, right? Europe as a whole, right? Right, you'll have to go with me on this little thought train now, because I've observed the way politics have shifted since Brexit, right? Now, the Brexit supporters will say, we're free now. We don't have to agree to European laws and conventions. And it's better for everybody because we've got we are autonomous as England now, right? But they see Europe, those people see Europe as a threat because they know Europe as a whole is progressive in our favour. So when they see Scotland doing the same thing, oh fucking hell, this is a bit close to home. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit too close to Carlisle for my liking. And that's why it's frightening Westminster, because they know this self-ID laws, self-declaration, if that goes ahead in Scotland and it's fine, there'll be no problem like it did in Ireland. There's no increase in any of these threats that they perceive. They won't have a leg to stand on when it comes to the UK, to England, Westminster. When that goes to the board or goes to the Human Rights Commission, the question will be, so what's the problem? And if the only problem is, we just don't like trans people, then they don't stand up. Like Caroline Noakes sees right through this because, I mean, she's my favourite Tory.
Yeah, I mean that is our next story actually. The session they had at the Women's and Equalities Committee on Tuesday. Let me just bring that one up.
Was this the one?
So this is where Labour MP Kate Osborne was blasting the Tory government for playing politics with trans people's lives. On, I think it was Tuesday this week, there was a Women and Equalities committee meeting held. I think it was like 2 hour long, and they were talking about the Scottish gender bill.
Yeah.
Who was on the board?
It's Lord Falconer, our friend Robin White, yeah. Naomi Cunningham, she calls herself legal feminist on Twitter, but I can't find the feminist bit anywhere. And Michael Foran, who I call the Ed Sheeran of transphobia.
I think he's he's related to something at Tufton Street, to be honest.
Oh yeah, they probably all are, to be honest. I
might be speculating there, but I think
interesting,
he's involved in
that. For people that didn't see this,
but it was a very interesting thing to watch. Did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched it all the way through, and I know people don't watch these. I mean, it's really boring and tedious. Obviously,
Well, if you're interested in law, it's quite interesting because Lord Falconer and Moira did a good job.
There were two really interesting moments in it for me, and the one where they were trying to say that self-ID would make it easier for men to identify into women's spaces, and Lord Falconer's saying we have safeguards already. We do DBS checks. It wouldn't make any difference. Even with a self-ID, it wouldn't bring any. You know what I mean? It's not. It doesn't create criminals. The law does not create criminals. It punishes criminals. So if you were a kind of person that would do that, you'd be trying to do it anyway. You wouldn't be waiting for the government to sanction it. You wouldn't be waiting for a document to arrive at your doorstep before you decided to be an abuser. And poor Naomi Cunningham, I felt sorry for her because she was just losing it. and she had to draw on this threats, the idea, and she kept saying this phrase, chilling effect, the chilling effect of that. I googled that chilling effect thing, and it's something that it was mentioned in a lot of turfy posts. This and what she said, she was going on this, a bit of a ramble about, any man can identify into women's spaces, and then Caroline Noakes, the chair, leans forward. Oh, because she was talking about smear tests. And she was saying, yeah, well, it causes a problem because men are being sent for smear tests. And she leans forward and said, what about trans men?
Yeah, exactly.
And there was a pause. It was like you could slice the air with a knife, and you could see Naomi coming and go, God, I didn't think of that.
Yeah, how could you not know that?
And she looks at Michael Foran, and she's like, help me out, Michael.
Just embarrassing for them.
So the legal feminist had to get a man to try to dig her out of that hole she's put herself in.
And then they were trying to say that there's no kind of services that you would ever need which would, are used by women and trans women.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what about breast screening? That's used by both.
Yeah. And Robin White was right to point out that Theresa May had already put into place, before all the Brexit nonsense and all the Boris Johnson nonsense, Theresa May had already made steps to make this change.
Well, the previous version of the Tories was all in favour of doing all this.
Yeah.
The current Tories are all against it.
It was only because...
I wonder why they changed their mind.
Because they filled Westminster with people they wanted to make Brexit happen. Yeah. And unfortunately, the kind of people that want to make Brexit happen are the worst people among us. They're Suella Braverman. They're Kemi Badenoch. They're any number. Not to pick on the women too much there, but they're the ones that stand out to me because they're the most vocal to do with the trans, because they're used. I think their voices are used more frequently because they'll say, well, they're women and they're ethnic women, so they obviously know about equalities.
So I think Kate Osborne asked some really interesting questions. She was kind of, she was posing several questions to the witnesses. Osborne represents Jarrow. And she was one of 11 Labour MPs who voted against the Section 35 thing. So, she's like one of them who actually stood up and voted, in favour of trans people. The rest of the Labour Party didn't bother. So I have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for Kate.
I think for me, it's no longer party political, because I don't see Keir Starmer and I don't see the ranking people in the Labour Party standing up for us. While I might like the general direction of Labour, and I would probably vote Labour if push came to shove, I don't have a lot of faith, personally speaking, in what I've heard from Keir Starmer, and there's not enough. It's not enough to say to ignore it. You have to come out and say, look, this is bollocks. You're actually hurting people here, and nobody's doing that for us. There's no political party that sits around that dispatch box that says, shut up about trans people, you bloody weirdos. Because that's what we need. We need somebody to say, we stop going on about this.
Yeah, we do.
It's not that in the scheme of things, this marginalised community that you're making more marginalised by completely talking about them all the time as if there's some kind of threat. While you're doing that, you're not paying attention to some really... nearly swore then. To some, you're not paying attention to some really... My mum's worried about a gas bill. You know what I mean? She's not worried about if trans women are going for a wee. And that's what it comes down to for me.
Well, one of Kate's statements was, I just wanted to say that I think that many people, including myself, see the government and others playing politics with trans rights and the issues around it. I think the fear-mongering and the hostile environment reminds me of the days that I was fighting Section 28 in the 80s. So, she's bang on with that.
Exactly. Because it's another way for them to sort of gatekeep the idea that there's one version of society that they want and there's another version that they find threatening. And that's right.
Okay, so Labour then. What do you think about Labour's current position on trans rights? They seem to be a bit wishy-washy. They didn't vote for us in that vote on whether they should, use Section 35, apart from those 11 we just kind of spoke about.
I don't know. I think because the problem is that they know this is I think there's part of it is they know this is a culture war, media-driven thing. So if Keir Starmer starts making statements about like if Keir Starmer says trans women are women, right? He would be destroyed.
No, he said that. He has said that.
But no, but
then he fails to back it up.
But I don't think it's not okay. What I'm saying is, if he went on to Laura Kuenssberg and said what I just said, look, we need to at least stop wasting time with this issue. That's not to say that the trans rights activists and trans rights campaigners shouldn't be listened to. It's just they need to get some perspective on real life, because he's a professional fence sitter, isn't he? So he just needs to one thing that annoys
come
me,
up and stop sitting on the fence, make some proper decisions.
Yes, the fence sitter. So it's a bit controversial for me to say, but I think some trans people are so entrenched in this debate now, and I am, and I'm guilty of it, is we stop seeing the bigger picture, because most people in this country don't give a toss. It's not that they hate us. It's not that they don't have empathy with people that have our experience, because if they watched a documentary about a trans person, they probably would and go and cry. If there was a reality TV show about me and you, Vicky, they'd be all on board with it. But the problem is most people in the country who are going about their daily lives, they're doing the jobs, they don't have time to worry about whether trans people can identify as the gender they are. And that's just a fact of it. And I'm really sorry that's not to say that those efforts are wasted of activists. It's me saying that we need, this is personal now, right? Because I'm going to stop arguing. I can't keep going on to radio shows, and I can't keep going on to TV shows and defending my right to be who I am. You know what I mean? I'm not that. I don't identify as trans. I identify as female and Freda.
Yeah. It's exhausting. I know it's exhausting. Everybody's tired.
But I'm happy to talk about it in good faith.
Mm-hmm.
Like if somebody said, because my experience is unique, maybe, and everybody else's. So maybe I have got something to share, but it has to come from a good place. It can't come from, right, so there's a trans rapist now in a ladies' prison. What do you think about it? I'm like, I don't give a toss. You know what? It's none of my business. And I'm not part of that debate because I identify as trans. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, trans people shouldn't be expected to provide all the answers all the time to these.
It's too much.
It's
too much weight to show.
A lot of responsibility on the shoulders of individual trans people who are just trying to get on with their lives, and the politicians are not taking any responsibility.
Well, it's like expecting us to be Atlas, like, oh, right, well, this is your issue. What do you think about it?
Our next story here, Shadow Equalities Minister Anneliese Dodds has said Labour will not use LGBTQ plus rights as a political football. This is just weeks after the party failed to oppose the Tories' blocking of the Scotland gender reforms. So, here's a Labour Party person who's saying we're not going to be using trans people as the political football, like the Tories do.
Exactly.
But then they didn't vote. Yeah. They didn't vote for us in this vote. So what is that? It's like you either support us and vote the way you should do, or you don't. Make a choice. Stop sitting on the fence.
Yeah. Just support. At least be consistent and say that, because. How many times do we listen to interviews with politicians and we know they're just repeating something that is the party line, or they're just parroting something that they've been sent on WhatsApp? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like,
well, I mean, she's promising that, you know, if Labour get in, that the Labour Party would seek to restore UK's reputation as a beacon of LGBT plus freedom and equality. I'm not convinced at the moment about Labour.
No, and I care. The thing is, we know hate crimes are a real thing, and we know that this political discourse, like on Question Time, and it harms us because it, like when I go into work, I can sometimes tell who's read what in the paper that day because they'll say, "Oh God, how'd you feel about this, Freda? You know, there's been a trans woman in a prison," and I'm like, well, what realistic world do you think that what do you think about it? Don't ask me what I think about it just because the news has got the word trans in the headline. Do you know what I mean? It's really exhausting.
Well, I mean, I think for me, the only political party that's actually taking any responsibility and doing what they're supposed to do on this issue is, Nicola Sturgeon's party.
Well, that's why they hate her.
The SNP.
And this is why I'm going to say the wizard lady is very... See, to me, right, J.K. Rowling, I did say her name, is not necessarily bothered. Why would she be bothered about trans people?
Well, who cares about J.K. Rowling anyway? I don't give a
toss
about what she
thinks.
But
the bigger point I'm making is that she is amplified because she knows they like say the Daily Mail or whatever, they know that she could potentially harm Nicola Sturgeon, and they want to harm Nicola Sturgeon because they don't want Scottish independence. They don't want the SNP to have... It's a point-scoring game all the time. So the story of Isla Bryson, the trans rapist, is a point. They don't care about women in women's prisons. Yeah. They don't care about helping trans prisoners. They don't care about any of that. It's a political point-scoring game.
They're using both trans rights and women's rights as political footballs.
Yeah, they do. But like personally, I worry about like trans people I know in Manchester who are distressed, and I said, don't, just get on with it. Just do your life like you were going to do your life anyway. People. I care about safety of trans people, right? So like that's why I think the stuff like the Trans Safety Network is, if you're aware of that, you just look on Trans Safety Network and they do really good research into the effects of the political climate. It's not about, getting into the minutiae of who said what and who did this and what's on Question Time. It's about what is actually filtering down to the street. And I think that's the most important thing for me. It's not about... I mean, maybe I've got to that point now where I've just kind of... I've just got to get on with my life. You know what I mean? I can't... A few months ago, I was so entrenched and I was so exhausted by... But I sort of realised I sort of voluntarily embroiled myself in certain arguments and certain... Do you know what I mean? Because I wanted justice. I wanted a solution. I wanted to try and talk to TERFs. I wanted to try and bridge that gap. And I just realised, you'll never convince people who hate us not to hate us. Do you know what I mean? You'll never do that.
I think what we need governments and politicians to start behaving like adults.
That's it. Yeah. But if that would be nice.
If you see, Finland have just done what they did, and there won't be any consequences. There won't be any negative consequences of that. We know this, and yet our lot,
I would like to say
the
that
ridiculousness goes on all the time.
If you're listening to this and you feel like the whole fucking world is like if you watch Question Time, if you listen to these debates,
go and look at some other countries and see what they do there, and see how simple and easy it is, and how these problems don't exist.
And it's no wonder trans people think about moving to other countries, because just remember that the stuff you see on Twitter, the stuff that is this constant news cycle, isn't reality. It really isn't. And
I mean, if you want a good example of how crazy it is. Did anybody watch Question Time this week?
Well, I did.
Our next little article here. Question Time descends into chaotic shouting match over Scotland's gender bill and trans prisoners. India Willoughby was on there. Did a great job.
You see, I've got issues with India, and I have had issues with India because some of the stuff she's said in the past, and I've been like, India,
but I mean, she was on there pretty much, a one-woman against not only the other, well, not all of the other panelists, but some of the panelists. I think the majority were kind of against her.
Well, the
audience was very, yeah,
but let's not forget.
It was a tough time.
Fiona Bruce and the production team for...
the BBC people, Fiona, etc. Do we really need to talk about them? We know where they stand.
No, what I'm saying is the whole thing is staged, managed.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a debate where anybody can just chime in and anybody can just put their hand up and anybody can... It's all... They know the questions that are coming. They've decided the people that are going to ask them. So what the BBC have done there... And
they're in Scotland with this show, by the way. This was done at Strathclyde University in Glasgow.
Yeah, so what they've done there is they've manufactured India Willoughby on this side and what's she called? Ella Whelan. Now, let me tell you something about Ella Whelan. Ella Whelan writes for Spiked Online, which is a venomously transphobic, right-wing publication. They're very authoritarian. They believe in, it's just it's like a comic for fascists, really. And it would be funny if it didn't affect people. And then she's put against India Willoughby, right? Now, there's not one opinion over here and another opinion over here. What it is, it's a dog that doesn't like cats and a cat that doesn't like dogs. And the BBC have decided they're going to learn something by putting them together.
Should have called it the Clash, shouldn't they?
Guess what? They ain't going to learn anything. And the people in the audience know that. And then they invite people in the audience to play along with that nonsense.
But there were a couple of people in the audience who were really supportive of India. And there was a couple of really unpleasant people in the audience who they kind of focused on.
Yeah, but they're the ones that they don't ask random people. They know how they want to play it. But this is not me saying there's a conspiracy. It's just the way production teams work. So because I've been in that situation, I've on the phone with production people. I know they know how they're gonna play it. So the question I knew that was gonna come up is like, so what is a woman or
the usual things.
Well, that's not the argument. Nobody thinks. No, right.
No, but they use that situation to bring up those usual points, don't they? Each time we have these debates, let's call it, whatever, they're always bringing up the same old points again and again and again.
But what Ella Whelan will do is she'll play to the worst people amongst us who believe that trans women are in complete denial of their biology. I don't know a single trans woman that doesn't understand the reality of their body.
Well, yeah.
Where they could, with some kind of delusional thing. But what we're saying is we won't be defined by our bodies, and not being defined by your body is a basic tenet of feminism, right? So you're going to say there is a woman and this is defined by biology. You're taking feminism back about 100 years. Because your only woman then is the one that can reproduce, right? Now, that's not me saying anything about or criticising the idea of womanhood. I know in my reality, I know I didn't go through a puberty that a cis woman would go through. But that doesn't mean I can't empathise with it. It doesn't mean I can't understand it. I can't understand it on a medical level. I can't understand it. And I will listen, and I love to listen to people's experiences. But to say I am less of a person, or I am pretending to be a person, or I am half a person or whatever it is, and I shouldn't be allowed to call myself female, is authoritarian, it's dogmatic, it's Puritan. It comes down to draconian ideas of how we define ourselves through our physical nature. So in a politics where, like, imagine a world where there's, if your qualification for being a woman is measured, it can't be measured. It cannot be measured. It can be seen, it can be observed in a biological sense, but you can't be defined by it, because if you start defining human beings by what they can do physically in terms of reproduction,
it's a slippery road.
You will go down a fascistic route.
Yep.
And that is the fact.
Welcome to transphobia.
Exactly. So why the audience might clap along when people say women can't have penises, and of course, you know what I mean? It's like
making,
nobody's saying.
We know this.
But you know what? Yeah. But you see, the thing is, with me and the way I feel and the way I present myself and the way I approach the world is I love to mess with that formula, because I describe myself in ways. I say I'm a transgender lesbian sperm producing female, because I'm attacking the language. I'm interested in why that can be my reality, and it doesn't mean anything at all. That's what. So people don't get that, and I think when I sometimes make, I mean, I don't know if it's sarcasm. There is a sarcastic side to it, but when I have these conversations with anti-trans people and I say things like that, I know I'm leaning into their prejudices. Do you know what I mean? I'm baiting the part of them that the brain is broken. That's what I try to do. But you'll never heal those people, because they're entrenched.
Yeah.
Although I have heard about people that have been reformed TERFs that did believe in a gender critical view, and then they did sort of change them. I
have to say, it's quite depressing that every time we do this podcast, we are basically talking about the same things.
Yeah.
From a different angle, from a different person, from a different organisation, coming out with more kind of transphobic positions. It feels like it's getting worse.
Well, I don't use the term transphobic anymore.
Okay.
I use
gender critical, whatever you want to say.
No. I said trans hostile.
Trans hostile, yeah, same
thing. Trans hostile and trans skeptic. Because you can be you can be trans skeptic. You can say, look,
they all mean the same things. They don't like trans people.
But I don't think because it's not that I don't believe transphobia is a thing. Of course it is, but because it's been so repeated, it just doesn't have the impact.
But it's quite depressing, isn't it? Does it affect you? I feel, recently my kind of where I'm at with my mental health, all this stuff is affecting me.
Yeah, definitely.
It brings you down.
I've talked to you,
and then you go to something like I was at yesterday at Blackpool. Everybody's really nice. Everybody's being really super friendly. That's the reality.
But I went through a phase a few months ago of being frightened to look at my phone.
Well, because,
and I wake up in the morning and think, oh God,
we need to really take care of our individual and collective mental health when all this shit's going on.
So I've compartmentalized a little bit, like my online life and my real life, because I'll bait people online and I will play into.
But, we're living in a country where we have to, we've become accustomed to this, and we're having to deal with it on a daily basis.
But I was going into those.
That takes its toll over time.
But I was going into those Twitter spaces where it's just like, if you think the things they type on the Twitter, normal Twitter is bad. When they think
those spaces are horrendous,
they will say things in those spaces they know they're not accountable for.
Yeah.
So the real mask off is there, and that's why I go in them, because you're
not going to hear anything new in there.
But I contribute to them, and I know I'm putting myself in harm's way by doing it, but I feel like I've got to get in the way of it. Like, it's a sort of it's like building a dam, but it doesn't work, does it? Really, it doesn't work.
It's not easy. Not easy.
I'm building my dam between transphobia and beauty. Well, the dam might break and I'll get drowned.
Yeah, the dam.
I'll get drowned in hate. Yeah.
All right. Well, where'd you do your banking? I hope it's not with the Halifax.
Nope.
So, yeah.
Who gives you transphobia?
This story is a bit of a weird one. Howard from the Halifax adverts rages against diversity and pronouns in a cringe protest song. Now, I've had no idea who this guy is. He was probably doing these adverts when I was not in the UK.
Well, he did a series of adverts for the iPhone. There was a few of them, but he was the most popular one, and he became like a bit of a cult.
So was this several years ago?
Yeah, it's about 10, 15 years ago. And he was chosen, right? This is why he was chosen. He's a black guy, but he looks like a geek, and that suits the Halifax because they want to see.
What was the original purpose of the adverts he was in?
They want to seem culturally relevant and but they don't want to be too edgy. So they'll get a black person that looks like Adrian Mole. Actually, he wore glasses like mine, and he did these stupid adverts where he was caught.
The glasses are identical to yours, actually.
I'm like, I have to ditch the glasses.
You have to ditch the glasses now. So let me just read out some of this.
I wear the glasses
article.
because I'm an art. These glasses come from a website called artlesbian.com.
Right, I'll have to get myself some of them. Howard Brown, best known for his appearance in adverts for Halifax Bank, has recorded a so-called protest song written by comedian Dominic Frisby. I don't know who Dominic Frisby is. Leaving some viewers raising an eyebrow, the former Halifax employee blasts fake diversity, unconscious bias training and pronouns while constantly saying, "What happened?"
Well, you see, the idea is like it plays into this idea, it's all wokery gone mad, political correctness gone mad. And it's GB News, it's Talk TV, it's like all that. And it's just cringe.
It's targeting people's gender identities. Brown sings, "Why do you hector me with your identity? And is there a new pronoun every day?" So what I'm trying to understand is who the hell is this guy and why is he suddenly doing this? It's like, who cares? Who cares about Howard?
Two things. He's run out of money and somebody's offered him this. And he's gone, he's made a moral decision, right? Do I stay skin or do I be an arsehole?
And he's chosen to be an arsehole.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I think we should point out that Halifax is a big supporter of LGBT rights, unlike Howard.
No.
So this is not we're not having a go at the Halifax, we're having a go at Howard. I'm sure they're distant themselves.
All big companies are, aren't they? They all pay lip service to the Pride Week and Pride Month or whatever, and that's good in a way. But is it really valuable? I mean,
it's probably due to the fact that Halifax have introduced pronoun badges. That's probably where it's coming from.
Sometimes I'll see memes and I'll think, "Oh, that's funny. That's really funny," and it'll be from some mad right winger because I saw a picture. You know the plane that dropped the bombs on Hiroshima, the Enola Gay.
Oh, where are you going with this, Freda?
Right, the Enola Gay. Somebody crossed out gay and put LGBT. I thought that's hilarious. But the person that was posting it was a proper right-wing nut job. And I was thinking, shit, am I laughing at the right thing here? But it's because I thought that was a parody of the kind of pink washing that we see from banks and big, massive corporations like BP when they try and fly a pride flag. So it works. It's like there's this horseshoe of right wing, communism, and then you go.
Well, I don't think Howard's going to be doing any more Halifax adverts. Let's put it that way.
Well, he's not going to be doing anything. That's it. His career's over now. He might as well.
Pretty much is, really. I mean, who else is going to use him in an advert now after that?
Well, it was over. This is the only... I mean, I hope...
Well, I mean, he's made sure it's really over now. Maybe he had a chance before. Now it's completely over.
Yeah, I hope
no company's going to want to hire somebody associated with that, are they? Let's face it.
No, it's rubbish. It's nonsense. It's just a bit of pandering to the worst people among us again.
Yeah, I think you'll like this next one. Johnny Rotten.
Oh yeah, I'm a Sex Pistols fan, but yeah,
Eurovision 2023. So John Lydon fails in bid to be Ireland's act for Liverpool in Eurovision 2023.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know his connection with Ireland. Do you know his connection with Ireland?
He's Irish. Yeah,
is he Irish?
Irish.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's got an Irish. I've got a book about him behind me. He's definitely Irish roots.
I've not listened to the song.
Good.
I didn't see the show. I just read a little bit of the article out. So, John Lydon, the former Sex Pistols frontman, has failed in his bid to represent Ireland at Eurovision. The 67-year-old had hoped his song "Hawaii" about his wife Nora, who lives with Alzheimer's, would be chosen to bring awareness to the disease. So it was a really good kind of thing he was trying to do there. Instead, the band Wild Youth was chosen to fly the Irish flag at the song contest, and it's going to be in Liverpool in May. So he was doing a good thing there. But
the thing is that John Lydon,
just a bit of an unusual person. You wouldn't really expect Johnny Rotten to be doing a Eurovision song.
But do you know about his recent history of like going on TV and saying he supports Trump?
I don't know his recent history. I just thought this was an interesting.
Well, you see, what John Lydon supports really in the back of his head is chaos. You know, it's not about. It's never been about anything more than that. I don't think so. So, like when he says he supports Trump or he thinks Brexit's a good idea, it's because he knows his position in the culture, and it's like Morrissey. You know, they get to that point where they just know they're not relevant anymore. So to be relevant or to be controversial or to be, if you're that kind of person that's a professional controversialist, you're going to pick the thing that you think is going to get, people annoyed. And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't have any value politically, but I think John Lydon is somebody that worships chaos. So this song is actually, because I looked at it and I thought, it's actually really good. It's got like a real, his voice, I'll tell you what's a really good track. Have you heard of Left Field? The band.
Don't think I have.
Right, they did a song.
You're gonna sing it.
They had a really big album in 1992 or 3 called Leftism, and it was just really good. It was like it was like the spirit of the time, really. And John Lydon did a song on it called "Open Up." Now, if somebody had said on paper, written it down, like we're gonna get Sex Pistols singer to sing over a dance track, you'd have gone, "Oh God, yeah, whatever." But it sounds amazing, and his voice cuts through. And that's the thing with Johnny. I will forgive him anything, and his madness, and he's got a good voice, and he writes good songs, and that's what I like. So, shoot me now if you think I'm supporting and somebody you disagree with. But
I have to say, I
also disagree with him, but I think he's one of the most unique Brits. He's one of the most. I mean, he's up there with, like, if you think about it, his song "God Save the Queen" is the actual alternative national anthem, isn't it? It really is. I would love to have. I would love to have seen "God Save the Queen," the Sex Pistols versions played at the Queen's funeral, because in a sense, she should appreciate it.
It probably, it's almost acceptable now, isn't it, to do that?
Yeah, because you'll see when I was in London.
Most people will disagree with that statement, by the way. But
when I was in London, I see in Camden, tourists are having the photos taken with punks, like Chinese, Japanese tourists and German tourists, because there are certain punks that will walk around with the classic punk look, and people will pay them to have the photos taken with them. That's where we're at now.
Is there an opportunity there?
Yeah, maybe we should get mohawks and start wearing some bondage trousers. Yeah.
Did you ever watch Pose? Are you a Pose fan? I don't think you've been a Pose fan, have you? You've not watched this.
What is it?
Pose. You must know what Pose is.
Is this the hang on. Let me pretend I know what I'm talking about.
The series, I think it was on BBC Two.
Michaela Jaé Rodriguez.
So
you'll have to tell me about this because
Rodriguez, trans woman, is now the face of Charlotte Tilbury. Would you believe?
That's really interesting because Charlotte Tilbury is not a brand that I would associate with sort of rebellion or sexual transgressive. But she's not really, is she, this lady? Like, this lady is very heteronormative. So she's not challenging anything. She's just being,
She's a big trans rights.
She's beautiful. I'm not saying
she's a big trans rights.
Yeah, that's great. It's great. I'm not going to be cynical. I was tempted to be cynical about it then.
And there's nothing to be cynical here. I don't believe.
I was just going to say, she's just trying to, be boring and do it. She's trying to be the Taylor Swift.
She's obviously making some money from it. I mean, she's not doing it for free, but it's good to see a trans woman, being the face of a beauty brand like.
I'd get excited if there was a trans woman bin woman.
Exactly.
I don't care.
So the Pose star appears in the beauty skincare brand New Pillow Talk campaign, which celebrates a decade of best-selling range.
Actually, I've just sorry to interrupt you. I know I'm interrupting a bit. But
you don't interrupt, do you?
Wouldn't that be interesting?
I've never known you to interrupt, Freda.
I think we should interview somebody on the podcast that just does a normal, not an exceptional job, just, somebody that's just getting on with life. Like, say they work in NASDA or they work in in a cafe, and just talk about their experiences, just ask them, like, what's it like? Because that sometimes...
Just normal everyday trans people like us.
Yeah, because that's more valuable. I'm more interested in talking about somebody that's, I'm endlessly fascinated by celebrities, but I just think it would be nice. I mean, we can't get any bloody celebrities, can we? Because we don't have. We're not gonna get Paris Lees to come on our podcast, are we? Let's be realistic, Freda. But what I'm saying is, it'd be nice to talk to someone who's not mad or has some sort of eccentric thing about them, and just say, look, what do you do? What's your life like? And
So yeah. I mean, I'd be up for that. Why not?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's find somebody. Let's ask. Is anybody that just?
Is anybody watching wants to come on and have that chat? Let us know.
Well, I kind of joked before then, didn't I, when I said about a trans woman, bin woman? But the reason, what I meant there was just.
Okay, but why would there not be a trans woman, bin woman?
Exactly. So because we're not talking about the detail of the job, we're actually just talking to somebody that's functioning in the real world. And that is a very important job to me. You know what I mean? Like, I'd say, like, we all kind of aspire to be something, but actually,
yeah. I mean, personal stories around trans people's lives. Those can be quite interesting. I mean, that's what I used to do with my other podcast, the one Transclusive.
Before you met me. Which
I still have, and I still do.
Before it went tits up.
Before it all went south, yeah.
Before I got you in trouble.
No, but that's a series of podcasts with just normal trans people in their lives. It's
yeah. I think that's
so. Yeah, anybody wants to come on this or Transclusive, let us know, and we'll set that up for you.
Well, we want to hear from people that are just enjoying life and getting on with it. I mean, it's you have struggle. Everybody has struggles, don't they?
You got anything exciting or interesting to come on and talk about? Yeah, why not?
Yeah, everybody's life's exciting and interesting. I mean, sometimes you watch documentaries about people, and they're always like some kind of influencer, or they're always some kind of somebody's done Love Island, or I don't know. I want to watch documentaries about people that.
You see, we've had this conversation about representation, haven't we, in the past on one of our episodes? And if you watch TV, you're not going to see much trans representation because, I don't know, why not? Where are they all?
Yeah, obviously.
You see, if you talk about when have you seen a trans person on TV recently? When has it not been in the news? It's not been on a news show. It's not been on something like Question Time. It's not been on the kind of things you've been on. Where else have you seen a trans person in TV? Hollyoaks.
Yeah, that's it. Well, if you think about it,
Coronation Street a long time ago. Is there anything else? Any other programs I've missed?
Oh, there's probably loads of them that I've forgotten about. But well, obviously Annie Wallace.
But it's a rare occurrence, though, isn't it? There's not somebody on. There's not a trans person on the telly who's there on a daily basis.
Yeah, well, India Willoughby
or doing
was
a show
like.
I mean, imagine Question Time. It was India Willoughby doing the Question Time. Why not? She's a newsreader.
But this is the problem, isn't it? Because during that Question Time debate, there was that woman that was an audience member that was saying, "I don't believe men can be women," whatever she was saying. You know, she might have been served. She might have been served by a trans woman in a cafe or a bar.
Well, yeah,
she would never have known. She would never have known.
It's probably interacted.
And she might have interacted with.
Yeah.
And if she did interact with someone like me or you in real life, I don't think she would have that venomous streak to her. I just think she would be polite, and I think she would understand that while that view she has, you know, is kind of.
She'll probably come to some understanding at some point in her life why she's wrong.
It's not that I want her to come to an understanding. It's just that she can't exist in the world like that. You know,
she's doing currently.
Well,
going on a show like that and saying those things.
But that's not the real. That's what I'm saying. It's not the real.
Well, it's
world.
The real world in the sense that it happened.
Yeah.
But you know, if she was to try to do that in her everyday life and have that attitude with everybody she ran into, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be just trans people she'd have a problem with, would it? Because if your tolerance is that low, you know,
it would be everybody who doesn't look like her in the mirror, you know.
Yeah, everybody that doesn't wear crap dresses from Primark.
Exactly. Now this next story
VHS.
Really got me irritated. This is one of my favourite topics, religion. So this is a story around a church in Greater Manchester which is now offering transgender baptisms. Now,
I love this story.
What on earth is this about? Okay, transgender baptisms are to be offered for the first time in the UK by a church in Greater Manchester. So let me just read a little bit of the article. So the New Chapel Unitarian and Free Christian Church in Denton, Tameside, not far from here, Freda, agreed the move in its annual general meeting. Jean Clements, the church's worship leader, whatever one of those is, proposed the change after meeting a couple who had a transgender child. The church was moved to make a change in order to help those in the same situation. Mrs. Clements said, "I felt saddened by the fact that this family were being shunned by many mainstream churches. However, when the family came to the new chapel, the congregation welcomed them with open arms." So what I'm really interested in knowing the answer to is, what is a transgender baptism and how does it differ from a non-transgender baptism?
Well,
so that's not defined in the article, but I think someone needs to ask that question.
Are you ready for my opinion on this?
Go on.
Right. Now, when I was baptized, part of the baptism, what a baptism is, right, traditionally, and in the Bible and whatever, it's an exorcism. That's what it is. It's to say no demonic spirits.
It's to stamp on your head that you belong to God.
Yeah, but it's what it's saying is, if you don't baptize your child, they would be potentially subject to evil spirits. That's where it comes from originally. Now, it doesn't just exist in Catholic. It exists in a lot of religions in the world. The idea that you anoint a child to bring it into the presence of God, whatever that God is. Now, the thing is with this that makes me think is like, do you know when TERFs talk about gender ideology?
Unfortunately, I do. Yes.
Yeah. So what that gender ideology is really is, it goes back to this. Because it's like, this child is male or female based on what we observe about it, right? So besides being a medical observation or physical observation, it becomes a spiritual observation. And it's like saying that the boy child is anointed in a certain way and the girl child is anointed in another way. Now, by sexing the child in that moment. So what I'm saying is, like, when people talk about what it means to be male and female, this proves that there is something spiritual and God-given in some people's minds about the idea of the male and the female. And it's like when we go to, I had this vision in my mind of, like, say you went to a gender clinic and the way that they present, like, say if you went through that process of going to a gender clinic, a gender pathway, but what we understand, there's no end to that gender pathway. But imagine if there was a point in that process where they gave you a certificate and baptized you in the name of the Father and Son. You are now Freda, you are now female. That's what a baptism is.
And then dipped you into a bath of estrogen gel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And full of rainbows and sparkles. And so I'm going to start my little church of. Well, I'm going to start my little trans church. And if you want to be baptized as the gender you weren't assigned at birth, you come to me and I will anoint you. And because it is all about ritual. It's all about the idea, and that's what there is part of our human soul that absolutely is key to us. So, like, when I remember talking to my mum about my baptism, because she was saying, like, when I came out and I said I want to be called Freda and all that, she was saying, because she showed me, because, like, when I got baptized.
So did she say you're going to have to get rebaptized?
No, she didn't say that, but she saw, because my mum's religious, and she wanted me to come to church with her. And I said, "Oh, Mum, I don't know how I feel about it, because your church people are a bit judgy." And she goes, "No,
just a little."
And I went to church with Mum. When I go, my mum always makes a point of introducing me to her church people as her daughter. And to me, that is the most spiritual, the most beautiful. I know it's all airy-fairy and it probably shouldn't mean anything, but because I know
what's important to you. So
but I know what's going on in my mum's mind. So if anyone was to say to my mum there, "That's not your daughter, that's your son," she would know that's an aggression. She would know that somebody's. Whether you care whether it's a belief or not, that is something my mum's invested in. So you don't insult her like that, and you don't insult me like that. So that people forget that, and I think this story about the trans baptism made me think about that and how we are. Like we think we live in a secular society now. We're all atheists. We don't really care about we don't think about God, but actually we do. We replace those beliefs with other beliefs. We replace them. We don't get rid of them. The internal thing that makes you religious is never taken away. It is replaced. Some people turn to drugs. Some people will go and climb Everest and try and reach the top of the mountain and become explorers. But you're always chasing something. You know what I mean? So that idea of religion never goes away because it's part of who we are as human beings. So I think it's a great thing. And you don't have to be religious. You don't have to be religious to understand it. It's like it feels to me like that this church by doing this is the most political thing. It's more political than any activism that I can imagine.
Yeah, but what is a transgender baptism and how does it differ from a normal one?
Well, you just get,
What I'm saying is they shouldn't be offering a transgender baptism. They should be offering a baptism. Why is it different?
No, it is different because it's saying because imagine. Well, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but imagine if you were baptized in one way where it says. I know it's not a.
If somebody changes their name, you don't get rebaptized, do you?
No, but there's a mental process.
No, but if someone has one name as a child and get baptized in that name, if they later in life decide to change their name, they don't go back and say, "Oh, I need to get rebaptized," do they?
No, I know, I understand that, but what I was
I
trying,
don't know.
what I
I
was
mean,
trying, what I
if
was trying to
someone's
get.
coming to religion for the first time and wants to be baptized, I mean, that's fine. If that's what you want to do. But this place is saying we're going to offer a transgender baptism as though it's something different to any other kind of baptisms they're going to do. And why is it different? What makes it different? Is it because they're saying something different in the wording? Are they saying this is a transgender person in the wording? What they're doing differently, I need to know. It's quite annoying. I find it quite annoying.
I understand what you mean, and I'd understand if it would make more sense if it was a non-binary baptism.
It's like going to a supermarket and being told, "Oh, you're trans. You have to buy the transgender bread, not the normal bread." It's like, what's the difference?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, you've just totally ruined everything that I said now.
I know, but that's what I'm looking. That's why it kind of came to my attention. I mean, had it just been an article that said this church is now, doing baptisms for everybody, they're not discriminating against trans people anymore, that's fine. But why say a transgender baptism?
I'll tell you why, right? Because within religion, like say if you were baptized in one way and then you decided, I still want to have a relationship with that religion and God or whatever it is, I want to be accepted as my new name and my new gender that I
take them your depot and say, here you go, here's my new name.
Yeah, but there's that element. But you mentioned bread there, and that made me think that there are some people in this world that would rather believe that the bread, like the
I'm just talking about your Warburton's everyday sliced loaf here. Don't go in too deep here, Freda.
Well, what I was going to say is, like, there are people in this world that believe that bread and wine are the body and blood of Jesus, and they would rather believe that than believe that somebody like us can exist. And that is your cognitive dissonance, because they're happy to believe in those kind of abstract concepts and those really deep kind of ritualistic things, but when it comes to the idea of, actually you might not be the gender you were assigned at birth, it's like, oh my god, you can't believe that, that's insane.
I do love a Warburton's crumpet, by the way. Those are quite nice.
Yeah, well, a Warburton's crumpet, really, if you think about it, it's like a religious experience.
It is. I mean,
now you're talking. Now you've got
Warburton's
the ritual
crumpet with bit of butter. Can't beat it.
You put your ritual of putting the butter on, which could be the semen of Jesus.
I think you're going a bit too far there.
Did I just say the semen of Jesus on the podcast?
You're going a bit too far.
I think I've just written my next poem.
I think you've just given me a segment to edit out there.
I'm gonna.
Hang on. Let me just read out a bit more of the article here. So, freedom and tolerance. Mrs. Clements described her congregation as a multi-generational community who are very willing to accept change and progress, and said the Unitarian movement stands for freedom, reason and tolerance. Now, again, why are you saying this in context with trans people? Are you saying that you're tolerating us? I don't want to hear someone say, oh, I'm going to tolerate you.
No.
Okay, no, I don't want any of that bullshit.
That's even worse than saying they hate us.
I know. New Chapel stressed it is for other Unitarian chapels within neighbouring districts to decide for themselves whether they wish to offer similar services. So they're offering this as a transgender service. The church said this transgender service will be very similar to an adult baptism. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's silly.
It's
I do get. Yeah, isn't it? Anything to do religious, though. I mean, it's like, why do we care? Like when you see the Archbishop of Canterbury on the news going on about,
it's once again these religions thinking they have some kind of authority over us and they're right and we just have to go along with it. It's just nonsense. Yeah. Get over yourselves, people.
I just want to drink the semen of Jesus.
Well, here you go then. You wanted to end on a slutty point. So here you go. LGBT Conservatives hand out free condoms in Parliament, and they're as sexy as you might imagine. So, yeah, we normally end on a funny story or a good news story. I'm not sure what kind of story this is, but it's probably right up Freda's alley because she likes to talk about sex.
Well, I mean, it's just if you want a contraceptive, make a Tory condom. You know what I mean? That's how it comes
Conservatives have brought back their branded condoms, despite reports they've been hastily axed. Be careful how you axe a condom, by the way, and are being given away to members.
I like that.
That's funny.
To be honest, though,
members of the LGBT plus Conservatives group reportedly handed out the condoms during this week's LGBT plus Conservative conference at Parliament. Slogans include "The Honourable Member" and "Labour isn't working." But this condom will be 99% of the time.
Can I be honest with you?
Hang on. Some of the condoms honoured openly LGBT plus Tory politicians, such as Gary Sambrook, Strap It for Sambrook, Nick Rogers, Roger for Nick, and Andrew Boff safely. Photos of the condoms were shared online by the BBC journalist. So, you know, there's nothing less sexy than a Conservative branded condom.
I'd rather risk getting an STD than use a Tory condom.
I'd rather go for a transgender baptism at my local church, to be honest.
I'd go for both. I mean, come on, be realistic. Like you're in the moment. You're with whatever, you're the guy, and you're all sexy and you're all sweaty, and you got to think, what political party are your condoms from?
I've got to read some more of these comments
because I want some Liberal Democrat rubbers.
Okay, the Conservative condoms are named "Never Kissed a Tory, but I've had safe sex with one," and were due to launch at the Conservative Party conference 2022 in October. LGBT Conservatives said the condoms will help people have pretty safe sex. But former Prime Minister Liz Truss reportedly put a stop to the branded contraception. The party announced on the 22nd of September last year that it would no longer be distributing its slogan condoms at the party's conference. Emails seen by PinkNews suggest the group was asked to withdraw the condoms by Liz Truss.
Withdraw
the condoms by Liz Truss, yeah. In an email exchange, LGBT plus Conservatives chair Elena Bunbury wrote that they were withdrawn to avoid promoting a sexual image of the party in the wake of the Chris Pincher scandal, who was investigated for 2 alleged incidents of sexual assault. It's just, you just can't make this shit up, can you?
It makes you wonder, like, are there SNP condoms? Are there Labour Party condoms? Are there Liberal Democrat condoms? Are they Britain First condom? What is this condom obsession? You know, I don't care what it says on the condom. I just want to, whatever.
No, there's more. There's more. Hang on. Not only have the Conservative Party previously flopped on handing out condoms under Boris Johnson's premiership, some of the unwanted climaxes have included strapping life-size reforms of the Gender Recognition Act and excluding trans people from a conversion therapy ban.
Well,
oh dear.
You know what we're going to have to do now, don't you? We're going to have to get some gender nebulous condoms made and give them out at Pride. And then people will see our website and enjoy a bit of nookie. Nookie, did I just say that? What year is it?
How old are you?
But yeah, I think that's a good idea, you know, because I was thinking about getting flyers made because I go to a lot of events and stuff. And
yeah, a range of. I think this is you know the conversation we had around protests.
Sex packs.
What you can do is protests. I think having a range of condoms with slogans on them would be quite amusing.
Yeah, but I prefer bareback.
Whatever.
Sorry. But anyway, yeah, I think it's a great idea because you can get those little packs made like in a cardboard folder, and it's got like some lube. What you get? Lube, 2 condoms, and some advice.
There you go.
And the advice needs to be, don't do it, girl. You're going to regret it.
You could have a word with LGBT Foundation in Manchester and see if they're prepared to do this. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm getting all excited thinking about it.
Well, thinking about branded condoms.
Yeah.
With slogans.
Our promotional activities. Because I'll tell you what, if Kelly J. Keane can make a load of money out of T-shirts and selling tat on the internet, we can make some money selling. Well, I wouldn't want to sell them. I just give them away, and then we can get some.
So what we're suggesting here is gender nebulous contraceptives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not contraceptives, safe sex packs. I'm not going to get pregnant, am I? Yet.
I have no idea. I don't even know how to answer that question.
Yeah, I understand.
Safe sex packs. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes more sense.
We don't want to be having any of that, because I was thinking about having flyers and stuff like that made, but I think that's dead boring. We need sex packs.
Sex packs and other personal paraphernalia.
And we could have little quotes from the podcast on the packet.
On the package. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and endorsements.
What kind of quotes are you thinking about?
Freda likes the semen of Jesus. I don't know. I've said some mad shit on this podcast, but I think that's the worst.
That's probably the worst thing you've ever said.
My mum's listening. She's like praying now. She's going, "Oh, God, the Hail Mary,
she needs to pray harder.
Oh,
I need to have a word with your mum because she's not praying hard enough. She needs to pray harder. And she needs to get you. She needs to make an appointment to get you one of those transgender baptisms.
Yeah, I think I will. I think I'll go and get myself dunked. Yeah. And cleansed.
Cleansed. Yeah. You need to be cleansed from head to toe in bleach. Please don't try this at home.
These colours don't run. Anyway,
we've got to the end. We've done an hour and a half. Good grief.
Yeah, and as we've been speaking, well, I'm going to catch up with what's been going on in Glasgow.
Okay,
so
give us a quick update.
This
over to you in Glasgow, Freda.
But let me just start. Let's have a quick look on my live feed. You know what? It's been really slow. So, but anyway, last time I looked, it was all very peaceful. It was all very.
So it's not going to be on the 6 o'clock news, huh?
Yeah, the let women speak thing's still going on, but it's just, it descends into ridiculousness of people saying women can't have penises.
These are not really.
I'll tell you what,
these are not really issues that we need to be talking about when it comes into women's rights. They're not really.
No, it's ridiculous. Get over it. Get a new hobby.
Get a new hobby, exactly. That's a good slogan for one of our condoms. Get a new hobby.
Let me just have a quick look on my feed because I'm following the whole Glasgow thing. So I'm going to say big loves to Beth Pickle and all the organisers of that because what they're doing is absolutely amazing, and I just love everything that they do. And the fairies are out in force. So with the fairies flying.
The furries, you mean, not the fairies?
I said furries, didn't I? Furries. Say it.
Furries.
Furries. Right, so thanks for watching. And we're going to sing our little don't forget to subscribe thing now, aren't we? Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm always ready. Always ready.
1, 2, 3. Don't forget to subscribe. You didn't do it in time either. It's don't forget to subscribe. I think I hit the wrong note there. Anyway, you get the idea.
Yeah. Okay, so thanks for watching. Please like, please subscribe. Please come back and listen to our ridiculousness once more.
Thank you for tolerating me.
Thank you for wasting an hour and a half of your life.
No, they love us. They love us.
And hopefully we'll get the Paul Bloomer podcast out this week when I've had a chance to do the edit. And because of Freda's comments in this particular episode, that's going to be delayed by several days.
Oh, no, I didn't say anything. Keep that in. I love that. Everything about that. There's nothing rude in there, was there?
Nothing rude. There was. Good
what?
Grief. This is a family show, Freda.
Keep the semen Jesus.
Right, so on that note, I will sign us off.
I'm going to pray now.
Catch you later.
Bye.
Bye.